All right. Let's try that again. So people shouldn't be able to hear this. They're just coming in.
All right,
I'll set it up. This is so annoying.
dude. Yes, I hear you. Honestly, streaming is. You thought you would have figured it out by now.
No, it's crazy how bad it is. Okay, so I'm gonna mute myself, or actually, I don't need to mute myself. Let's just see. Let's go live.
By the way, you're not getting any echo from my side, right? I'm using AirPods
No.
and have everything
Yeah,
set
you're
up.
good
All
to
right,
go.
nice.
Oh, they can hear us. Okay, cool. I'll mute. Thanks, William. All right, we are live. Hey, Joe, sorry for the trouble. I know I've created like 17 different streams.
No worries, no worries. I mean, come on, it's Friday. Take it easy on yourself. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's funny. I've done like 10 streams and none of them have been perfect, far from perfect. But whatever. Nobody wants to hear about my streaming woes. We're going to talk about AI today. I feel very fortunate. I get to hang out with Joe for the next hour or so. He's going to be hanging out for the AI news. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you're from in the comments. I always love to see it all over the world. And yeah, we got a few stories today. It wasn't actually a huge week in AI, although it seems like it always is. But yeah, we did have some pretty cool stuff happen last night, though. So I think we start from there, Joe, if you're okay with it.
Yes, I mean, I was about to say that. I was like, yes, like was feeling like a slow week up to yesterday night, and that was like, boom. I mean, I know it's kind of like a lot of like promises about the future, but I'm very excited about that.
I am as well. So I'll pull something up. I'm not gonna. Oh, I guess I will share it right away. Real quick before we dive right in, we have folks from China, Nevada, the moon, Mars, sure, India, Texas, St. Louis, Nepal, Toronto, CrewAI. Yeah, okay. So quick introduction before we dive into it. This is Joe, founder, CEO of CrewAI, one of my absolute favorite AI products. I'm an investor. I was fortunate enough to join him in a very small way on his journey. And yeah, so he's gonna hang out. He's gonna talk about AI news with us today. And then if you have any questions about CrewAI, you're in the right place. Drop them in the comments. I'll take note of them, and we'll ask it towards the end. So welcome, Joe.
Hey, thank you for having me. Honestly, I'm the blessed one to be here. I'm excited. It's good to see some people from Brazil dropping in the chat. There you go. People all over the place. I love it.
Yeah, North Dakota, Marbella. What is that? That looks like India.
Oh man,
Squirreltopia, sure.
India must be pretty late
Greece,
now there. I love
UK.
it.
Hell yeah. All right. Let's dive right into it. Did you watch, Joe? Did you watch the Tesla event, We Robot?
So my understanding, and I was trying to find like a live feed. There's no live feed, but I got a lot of cuts from like Twitter threads and all that, and I was blown away. I know that stock seems to doesn't reflect as much as the excitement as people saw that, but I like the future that Elon is painting up there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I love what he has done with rockets. I actually just got a Starlink. We could talk about that in a little bit. Um, rockets, cars, X. I mean, Yeah, he ships. It's crazy. He ships, and he made a bunch of cool announcements. He is inventing the future better than anybody out there right now. Um, and he had a bunch of really cool stuff that he revealed yesterday during his event, the 1010 quote unquote We Robot event. That's in reference to iRobot, which is, oh my god, I'm gonna forget his name. Asimov. It's a book by him. And then it was also a movie featuring Will Smith, which was I like the movie.
Me
Um,
too.
and yeah, I mean he's building the future. So let's just watch the first like 30 seconds together because it'll reveal one of the new products, and then we could talk about it. And chat, let me know if you can hear it, by the way. I hope you can.
Dang, that looks sick.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. I'm actually going to go back a little bit just so we can see it as we're talking about it. It looks amazing. So like Elon said during this live stream. So for actually, let me take a step back. So this is one of the big reveals. This is the robotaxi. We knew this was coming. It is a fully unsupervised autonomous vehicle. Doesn't have a steering wheel. Doesn't have pedals. This is meant to be used by more than one person. And what do I mean by that? So there's 168 hours during the week. And on average, a car owner uses their car 10 hours per week. That is a small fraction of the total life of the car. The other times it is just sitting, doing nothing in a parking lot, in a garage. And basically, what they are proposing, what Tesla and Elon are proposing, is now we have this vehicle that can work autonomously without you. So when you do need a lift, when you need to go somewhere and be transported somewhere, it will take you, but it doesn't have to be parked and just wait there for you. It can go do other things. And those other things can be whatever, run errands, pick up other people. You can make money from it by allowing it to essentially go and kind of be an Uber for other folks. And yeah, I mean, I'll pause there. Joe, what are your thoughts on this brilliant future that he's projecting?
I gotta say, so many thoughts, right? Because like one, let's give it props to the guy. Looks amazing. Looks great. Design seems to be on point. He's like basically doubling down on like what worked out with the Cybertruck. That's kind of
Yeah.
like super edgy, kind of like being like trying to like strike that iconic, kind of like very singular. If you see this on the street, you know it.
Yeah.
And he definitely got that. So that's amazing. Uh, I think the vision is incredible. I love the idea of getting there. Honestly, I have two cars. And I work from home. They spend most of the time park it. Like I don't go anywhere. I order food. I don't go out that much. My wife and I are very kind of like low key watching movies on the Friday night. So I would love if these cars could like be put to a better use, right? Especially if they're electric and they're not doing that on cost of the environment. But yeah, I think it's insane. But if that goes that way, that has so many impacts on how we live, on how traffic works,
Yeah.
on costs of goods, on inflation. So I think like it's just like it's insane to think all the wave of impacts that this will have through our economy if this goes like production scale for real.
Yeah, and I have some thoughts on the design. You're right. It's very much like the Cybertruck in that, and he says it later in this presentation. He says the future should look like the future, but here's the caveat to that: it's the future according to the 1980s. Like that. This is the future, but as thought of in the past, right? And specifically the 80s, like um, uh, Blade Runner, Total Recall, like these movies
Yeah.
had cars in them that look like this. And I just want to show one real quick. I'll show you what I mean by that.
That's a good point. I didn't thought about that, but yeah, I think you're on point.
So here's kind of what I mean. This is like Total Recall's cars, right? And they all have this like very boxy look, and a lot of the time the tires are hidden, and yeah, so it's he basically created the design language of the future, but of the future from the 80s. And it's not the only thing he announced, but we'll get to that in a bit. And that design language is even more kind of radical, I would say.
Yeah, I wonder that the thing is, you want to look into this and you want to think like, oh, it might be a marketing play, right? He's thinking about demographics, like what is like the population that will adopt this, and kind of like it speaks to their child like dreams and all that. But honestly, when you think about it, that's not Elon. Elon probably just said, oh, this looks cool. You know what? Let's go with it.
Yeah, and a lot of people are actually saying the Back to the Future cars, 100%. So Geo Gotch, absolutely. And fun fact, this is filmed. So where they did this entire demo, it's actually pretty close to me. It's at Universal Studios, the Warner Brothers lot. They repurposed the entire lot. They dressed it up, made it look like a little city, which kind of already does, but they made it look really good. And Back to the Future, the famous scene in front of the clock tower was filmed there. So like it all is like coming together in a really cool way. And yeah, this is definitely again like the future as seen by people from the 80s.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That's a good point. I never realized that, but yes. And I think maybe that's the reason. I wonder like if you show this to the newer generation, like the folks that are like late 90s, like how they feel about it. Do they find like this is cool, or like does this like strike them as odd? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia built into it. I think you're 100% right. And as a 90s kid myself, like we live for nostalgia, right? That is like all of the remakes of all the shows that we grew up with, all of the movies we grew up with, they are playing to us. And you know, Elon's not a 90s kid, but he has you know, these movies are from the 80s, so I guess that's more of his time. But I love it, man. I'm into it. I'm into something different. I don't want to see the same thing over and over again and slight modifications. And I I know a lot of people think the Cybertruck is ugly, and you know, maybe from some angles it is, but I appreciate boldness. I like that he
Yeah.
tried something different and it looks different, and it's just different from anything else you're going to see on the road. And every time I'm driving down the street and I see one, I look at it and it's just impressive.
I think it's also like, especially for a company this size, right? And I think this is the thing that kind of gets to me. Like, I think a lot about this because of Crew and like being startup. I think like as a startup, the big thing that you have is your ability to do big moves. But this is not a startup. This is like a major company, right?
Yeah.
And like the fact that they're taking like big swings like this and like big risks, I think it's something that yeah, I wish there was more out there from like any other companies actually.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, Joe, like all the other automobile companies, they'll have a concept car and you'll look at it and you'll be like, "Oh my god, that thing is phenomenal. It's beautiful." And then they never ship it. Never.
Yeah.
They'll take like subtle design language hints from it, but they won't ship it. They will never do it. You've never seen it. And in Elon and Tesla changed the game when they released the Cybertruck. They brought it out and they said, "This is what it's going to look like." And then they shipped it. So when we see this, which looks like a concept car, which other automobile manufacturers have produced cars that look as kind of futuristic and as insane as this, they will actually ship a car that looks almost identical to this. So it's so cool.
Yeah.
And again, later in the video we're going to watch, they have something that is even more mind-blowing, more futuristic, but even further in the past idea of the future.
How long do you think it's actually gonna take for this to hit the road? Like, because this is the one thing that Elon get a lot of shade on in some of these things. Like, it takes a
Yeah.
long time, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So he talked about it, and I'll just say what he said. If I remember correctly, he said next year, uh, unsupervised full self-driving will be available in California and Texas with the Model 3 and Model Y. That means you can turn it on and like have no interruption or really have to pay attention at all. That seems plausible. I've I've been in a car with Tesla's full self-driving. It is impressive. We've also blown past stoplights. So like, we'll see. It was about a year ago, so it's been a little while. Then he said production for the robotaxi will start in 2026. But he even admitted, he's like, I've been optimistic about timelines in the past. So, uh, you know, let's say it's another 2 years after that before we really have any of these things in our hands. But I love it.
I gotta say, as long as it gets to us, I'm good. I don't mind waiting a little longer.
Technocorpus says, how will you park in tight spaces with those crazy doors? I agree. But here's the thing. It doesn't need to park. That's it. It doesn't need to. It can just go somewhere else. It'll drive around. I think it's still a valid question. Maybe they won't end up shipping doors that open like that. I don't know what they're called. Scissor doors, maybe. I think the Falcon Wing doors on the Model X are brilliant. I heard they don't work all the time, but kind of conceptually, the fact that they open up and then out is really nice. It just takes up a bunch of space. But again, technically, if you're parking it, you don't actually need to get in and out of the car while it's parked, even if it's parked, right? So it'll kind of pull out and pull up to you, then open the doors. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
And the other thing is, this is supposed to be the taxi, right? So this is not going to be parking. It's going to be picking people up, like, and let people go out, like, very easily. So if
Yeah.
anything, I think the doors opening that way makes it easy for you to kind of like take things out and put things into it, like bags and all that. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's watch a little bit more. All right. What do you think these I'm going to replay it, but what do you think these, like, I don't know, lights on the front are? Is it just like to look cool? Let me show you that again just so you can see it. They're being projected from the car.
yeah,
And they're on all of them, and they, because of course it's like on a movie set, they put fog everywhere, so it just looks super cool. But I don't know what those are. Let me play it one more time, and then you can also see some bicycles with neon lights on them, and I mean it's all very cool. Look at that right there.
that's pretty good.
Welcome.
All right, so here he just talks a bunch about everything that's coming. We we haven't talked about the price. So the price for that vehicle, and let me go back so we could just keep an eye on its beauty because I just think it's gorgeous. He said under $30,000. Do you think he's going to be able to deliver on that?
No. Hell no. At least not like, I mean, maybe long term, but not early days. Right. Like, this like, it would be a hell of a ship for like a brand new car. And I mean, I don't know because again, I didn't find a live feed, but did he give specs on it, like range, top speed, and all that? I don't know if it cares that much if like it's a cab or anything, but I think that impacts on like ability for actually hitting that price target or not.
Yeah, and by the way, I see a couple comments of people wanting to ask you questions about Crew. I promise we will have time for that. Don't you worry. That's why we got Joe here. So yeah, if it's under $30,000, that's the price of an average brand new car. I think probably a little bit on the higher end of an average brand new car. Um, but fully autonomous, and I think where it gets really interesting is you can make money from it.
So
It'll drive you around and then you basically send it off as part of their Tesla network of vehicles and they go pick up people and drive them elsewhere. I don't know like how the economics will play out, but it sounds interesting.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, all right, you can get some money out of this, but will you actually get a profit out of it? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It might take like a long time because a lot of the things that he spoke to about is how this lower the cost of transportation, right? So this make it so damn cheap per mile because you don't gotta pay a driver. You're already running on electric and everything. So I wonder like if you're actually gonna make some money, it's just gonna like you're gonna make some, but probably not a profit out of it.
Yeah, and here's an interesting bit that he talked about, but it wasn't in this supercut, so I can't play it. But one thing he said, and Joe, you're gonna love this. He is going to overspec the computers in these cars. And so, okay, so what does that actually mean? He is going to install GPUs, CPUs that are way more than is what is actually needed to run the automobile. But why? Why would he do that? And then he talks about having all of this additional GPU capacity and essentially creating an AWS like service where you can essentially buy inference from the car. So just imagine a network of cars that I'll break down all the time. 10 hours per week is what an average automobile gets driven right now. He said, let's say with a fully autonomous vehicle, it's like 50 to 60 hours per week out of 168 hours during the week. That's still let's say 100 hours that isn't being used. It's charging, it's getting cleaned. Why can't it just run inference during that time? It's essentially a mobile inference machine. And so he has this grand vision about essentially creating an AWS like service for inference. And why not? He can use it for himself at Tesla, at X.AI, or to anybody who wants to rent it from them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it offsets the cost for him, right? Because like you are paying for that GPU, and yes, you get some money, but like at the end of the day, like the economics behind it, if this go that way, like works pretty well. But it's interesting because he talked about that last night as well. That this car is a robot, like for every like aspect of it. It has like four wheels, and but other than that, it's a computer. So
Yeah.
yes, why not use it more like a computer and basically being able to use that to power like things yourself or to get energy out of that and everything that you can. Especially like if he ties that up with like connectivity and Starlink and everything and how that comes
Oh, yeah.
together, it can get pretty wild.
Yeah, actually, just because you brought up Starlink, so I actually bought it. I bought two of them. I bought one for the house, which was $300. It's the larger one. It's the one meant to put up on the roof or anything. I think it has like a 3,000 square foot radius for the actual Wi-Fi. Um, and I bought it as a backup. As Verizon went down, our internet goes down sometimes. Look what just happened in Florida with the hurricane. I think like having a $300 backup internet anywhere in the world is just really cool. And then I also bought the Starlink Mini, which was more expensive. It was 600. It's the size. It's the size of an iPad, and it has a router and Wi-Fi built into it. You just place it. I set it up. It took, I don't know, 10 minutes to set up. I put it down, turned it on. It downloaded the latest update. And yeah, I mean, all of these different technologies coming together, it's like you can kind of see his vision, and it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I gotta say it's a very nice feature that he's spinning. So how good? Give me honest here. How good is the mini? Because honestly, I would love to get a Starlink just because like it sounds like so. It sounds like freedom, right? Like
Yeah,
wait, like my power can go down and I can still have internet as long as I have like a
that's
something
right.
to feed that off. Like this is kind of insane to me.
So one thing is the Mini is very power efficient. It doesn't need a lot of power as compared to the larger version. So you brought up a really good point. How good is it? I know. Oh, gosh, I'm gonna blank on the specs. I'll look it up. Uh, Download speed. I think it's like 100. Oh yeah, 100 megabytes per second download. Um, and 10 megabytes per second upload, which, not the fastest, but anywhere in the world. And that's the Mini. So, you drive, you go camping in the middle of nowhere, boom, you have internet if you want. If you're into that, if you're into like disconnecting, that's cool too. But Yeah, I mean, I set it up and it got really fast speeds just right in my backyard. Anywhere in the world. That's the coolest part. So yeah, I
Mm.
can imagine him just installing a Starlink on every one of these.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it goes to hand because you have the computer, you have the connectivity, you have the GPU in there. Like, yeah, it's a data center on wheels.
Yeah. And it's funny because for a long time, people described Teslas as cars on wheels. That's essentially what it's an iPhone with wheels. And
Yeah.
they really invented that category. So anyways, okay, let's keep going. New Robotaxi. So let me play a little bit more video so you can actually see some of
We
them
have
rolling around
50
this little
fully
neighborhood.
autonomous cars here tonight. Uh,
50
so you'll see
total
Model
autonomous
Ys
cars.
and the Cyber Cab, all driverless. You'll be able to take a ride in the Cyber Cab. There's no steering wheel or pedals. So I hope this goes well. I think the cost of
All right, so he
autonomous
starts to talk about the cost, which is cool. I want to play this segment, which
is so low.
I think what people don't appreciate is when you don't have to pay attention to driving, what you can accomplish in the car. So let's watch this video and see some of the examples because I think it really highlights what's possible.
That you can think of it like individualized mass transit. The average cost of a bus per mile for a city, not the ticket price because that is subsidized, but the average price is about $1 a mile. Whereas the cost of
Okay, it starts in a
Cybercab,
second.
we think probably over time, from the operating cost is probably going to be around 20 cents a mile.
Watching videos, getting work done,
And price,
doing
including
calls,
taxes and
watching
everything else,
sports,
probably ends up being 30
learning,
or 40 cents a mile.
sleeping.
So yes, and you will be able to buy one.
You know, look at that. I
Yes.
think that example is so cool. So, like, it's a little bit less relevant if you don't live in a crowded city, but imagine you go to your grocery store, you get dropped off, do your shopping, push a button, and then your cyber cab pulls up in front right where you need to be. It's just really cool to think about.
Yeah, 100%. And
Exactly.
I didn't saw this first, but look at the size of that trunk. Like it's
Yeah.
immense.
Yeah. Here it is right here.
And we expect the cost to be below $30,000. We do expect actually to start fully autonomous, unsupervised FSD.
All right, I'm gonna skip ahead a bit. Oh, here's something really cool. Okay, so let's say you are renting out your robo taxi. I think a lot of people would worry, are people going to make a mess and then I have to clean it every time? Turns out no. Let's watch.
Inductive charging. So the robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So yeah, it's kind of how it should be. Oh, and
All right, before I get to that next scene. So, two things: inductive charging, no plug. Again, like just removing humans from the equation. You pull up just like your phone works. You kind of just you get close enough to it and it charges. What do you think about that?
That piece I'm a little bit more skeptical about because I have seen other cars that do that already, right? But it takes so long to charge. Like the point that is like unusable. Infrastructure for that is kind of like it's a lot. So for you to install in your place, it's kind of like not that simple. My guess. I mean, if anyone can like figure out how to make this cheaper and smaller, it would definitely be like this, guys. But yeah, right now I think that it would be probably very challenging to like charge a car super fast and what that would look like.
Yeah, I
But the
just
whole
put a comment.
robotic, yeah,
Yeah,
there you
it says,
go. It's 5%
inductive
efficient. Like,
charging, 5% efficient. Like my phone charges pretty darn fast. Like Qi 2 I mean it charges really fast. Not as fast as plugging it in, But again, if you're going to spend the time and as you can see about the robotic cleaning, maybe you're there anyways, and it's just a simpler way to do it. I don't know. What is? Sorry, I cut you off. Tell me what your thoughts are on the robo cleaning.
The robot cleaning, I love it. And honestly, this is the one thing that I like about Elon. And it's almost like he's thinking like as engineer, like like a regular programmer. Like we always are trying to find out this kind of like if you do something twice, you're like, how can I automate this so I don't need to do it? And I think like he has that mentality. And this feels like something that people would not attempt. But if you really think about it, you're like, as long as I can get the car in the same spot always, and it's always the same car, I can do this. And there you go. He's pulling that off. So it's I think it's very nice to watch because it's like what I would do if I was in his spot.
So, he talks about having a fleet or a flock of cyber cabs, which I think is just so cool to think about. Um, they go out, they service, they transport people, and then they go charge themselves, they clean themselves. I mean, that is such a cool future. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, Sven, phone isn't a 300 kilowatt hour car battery pack. Very fair, very fair.
Yeah.
So maybe that part's not going to work out, but we'll see. Maybe they do like hot swapping of batteries. You pull into a station, takes a battery out, plugs another one in. He said inductive charging, so obviously he has a plan to at least try that. We'll see if he actually is able to accomplish
Yeah.
it though.
Some people mentioned in the chat though, it seems they might have acquired a company earlier this year that is specialized on that. So I don't know. Maybe there is a master plan in there working like they're actually looking into that and they actually like bought this company and they're gonna use that tech to figure it out. Again, if it works, it would be amazing.
Yeah, so Joe Lyman, hey man, inductive charging is 60 to 80% efficient, so definitely not 5%. And then Brian Doe, wireless charging was solved earlier this year when Tesla acquired a company that specifically specializes this. How does he not know? Sorry. I think, yeah, I don't know. I've not heard of that. Drop the name of the company in chat and I'll try to check it out. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next part because this was the most mind-blowing to me. Let's watch and then we'll talk about it.
It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So yeah,
Okay, just give it a sec.
it's kind of
It'll
how it should
start
be.
in a moment.
Oh, and
There
also,
it is.
what happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? The Robovin.
There it is. As he calls it, the Robovin, not Robovan, Robovin. This is a 20-person transport. No visible wheels. Obviously, there's wheels, but they like the design styling. They kind of just hid the wheels. I'll play the rest in a second, but this is what he says it's going to look like, and it's just nuts to think about. Now, we earlier talked about this kind of the design language of the future according to the past of the 80s. This is the 30s. This is Art
Yeah.
Deco. This is they made trains that look like this, but this is what the future looked like in the 30s.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it's a super bold move. Like because I mean, design wise, it's different. And two, like it's just being very efficient. So covering the wheels, having like the whole thing for the air to like to go through. So he's being mindful about a wrench and like the weight that the thing's gonna be carrying. But like this thing must weigh a ton. Like
Yeah.
it must be
It's a beast.
crazy heavy.
And look, I mean, look at it, crazy heavy, absolutely, especially with 20 people in it. Look at all of them streaming out of there, and the inside looks super futuristic. I mean, everything looks like the future, even though it's like design wise from the past. I'm in love with it. I would love to see this coming at me on the street.
Would
The
you
only thing
use it though?
oh yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Nice.
Just for the coolness. I don't live in a city, so I think the density aspect is not as necessary out here. The one thing I was a little surprised at is it looks like it only goes one way. So there was this other, oh, I'm forgetting the name of it now, but it kind of, oh my gosh, what was it? The Canoe, maybe? I think it was called the Canoe. It's very similar. It was a van-esque thing, but it was completely symmetrical and can go in either direction, meaning not reverse, but it can drive full speed in either direction. And because it was completely symmetrical, it just looked like it can go in either direction. This looks like it has one direction because it has kind of rear-facing brake lights here, and the front. If I can go back just a second. The front has obvious headlights. So a little bit different, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I gotta say it's a bold move. I think like yeah, if it had a design that meant that it could go either way, I think that could have a different impact to that. But I wonder if like if that would make permits harder or anything like it.
Yeah,
Um or I don't know if he's thinking like that far. I mean, honestly, he's changing so much here that it's gonna be hard anyway. So I don't know.
let
You
me
know,
show what that. Oh, go ahead. Go
one
ahead.
thing that would be cool, like because it's like it supports a lot of people, but it's not like an immense number of people. Like 20 is a very solid number. Like this could be like again, this changes a little bit economics on how you could use something like this. For example, if you're a company and you do in person for whatever reason, you could hire or buy one of this to pick up employees in the morning, taking them out, like and
Yeah,
have like the thing self-drive. So it changes economics in a way where you can do things that you couldn't do before. So a little odd.
absolutely. Oh, Joe, that's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Very Disney Park-esque. Absolutely, that's a good call because yeah, the again, the Disney kind of design language is the future, but Disney's been around forever. So when they envisioned the future, it was decades ago. So here's what I was talking about. These are Art Deco train styles from 1936, and they look exactly like the Robovan. I mean, this might as well be it. The only difference is it's covering the wheels. I'm sure I could find an example of that, right? I mean, look at some of these. I think they're gorgeous.
I do think it's a good one. Yeah. I honestly I think like goes back to what I was saying is not even only about the design itself, it's about like the boldness. Like I appreciate
That's
like
right.
something this bold. I think like honestly, even if you don't dig it, you gotta respect that. Yeah, and there's someone in the chat mentioned like the economic aspect and like how the stocks kind of like tanking. Um
Yeah.
yeah, like the whole economic aspect of it is kind of like a separate conversation, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot going on in there as well.
Yeah. The stock is tanking today, down 8%. Not investment advice. Let me just throw that out there. Um, I every time Tesla seems to announce something pretty bold and futuristic, I think their stock goes down. Um, people just don't see the future. I mean, like to me, with robots, inference, um, autonomous vehicles, autonomous taxis, like how like Tesla has multiple trillion-dollar opportunities ahead of them.
I agree. I can see that. Yeah. I don't know. I think people are just skeptical on kind of like some of the things that took way longer now then. But and this is what I like about like the way that Elon Rand is. It's kind of like he it seems from looking from outside in, he shuts down the noise and say like, you know what, let's keep doing. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Like they have the
absolutely.
vision.
Yeah. William, no, not investment advice. Not investment advice. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's just keep playing it a little bit.
Computer, it all actually applies to a humanoid robot. It's the same techniques. It's just a robot with arms and
There it
legs
is.
instead of a robot with wheels. And we've made a lot of progress with Optimus. And as you can see, we started with someone in a robot suit, sort of that, and then we've progressed dramatically year after year.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, somebody in a robot suit a few years ago, not even that many actually. I think it's like 3 years ago, when they announced that they were going to start building humanoid robots, he had somebody dress up as Optimus in like spandex and dance on stage, and that was the tech that they had, and everybody made fun of it. It was really hilarious, and in very Elon fashion, 3 years later, like there it is. Like he delivered. It is really impressive. And between this and Boston Dynamics, Figure, I mean, humanoid robots are coming fast and furious.
Yeah, 100%. I gotta say, this is a vision that I stand behind like 1,000%. Honestly, like doing chores, I hate them. So the ability to have something to do it for me, like I think this would be great. I think if he has a kids on this vision and this things are able to do half of like it's saying that it's gonna do, I think this, yeah, people would definitely pay like the price of a high end car for something like that. Just because like it frees you up for so much, right? So
Yeah.
much stuff. So I like that.
Yeah. By the way, I did an interview with Saturn Punit, who is the founder of WorldCoin. And that's going to be coming, I think, next week. But we talked about a future of infinite abundance. And if kind of assuming AGI does not kill us all, uh, assuming that a lot of these things are going to actually manifest, like with robots and AI, like it is feasible that there will be a future in which we really just have infinite abundance, and it's so cool to think about. We won't get too much into that right now, but I'm so excited and optimistic for the future. It was a really interesting conversation, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
So, oh, please, Joe, go ahead.
No. I would say, yeah, let's not get too much into that, but I agree with you. I think like the future is shaping up to be something awesome.
Yeah. Um, all right. A quick aside. So obviously, for people who have been joining a little bit later, this is Joe from CrewAI. We'll be taking questions in a little bit about Crew. And check out crewai.com. Check out my newsletter. It was MatthewBerman.com. You could still go there, but also check it out at forwardfuture.ai. We have a new URL for that. And we've been putting a ton of time and effort into our newsletter. We not only do news roundups, with which every other newsletter does, but we have incredible guest writers who do original pieces for Forward Future. So Ash Stewart, Chubby from X, and a bunch of others, and we're just putting a bunch of time. So I would really appreciate it if you did check out MatthewBerman.com or forwardfuture.ai. Both of them go to the same place. Okay, so let's see. One thing I wanted to ask you, Joe. Have you seen the show Westworld? Not the older one, but the more recent one.
So I think I watched it like a couple episodes. It didn't like work for me, but I can see this.
So I mean, I think this was intentional, but these robots, which I'll show you in a second, go on to kind of go throughout the party, the after party. They're chatting with people, they're interacting with people, they're serving drinks, they're serving other things. And this is a scene, and especially because he dressed him up as a cowboy, it's like a scene out of Westworld. Now, here's the thing. That particular scene, spoiler alert, did not end well for the humans. Okay. The entire show really did not end well for the humans. But it's cool nonetheless. And so let me show you. I'll just play a little bit of it, and here they go walking
R2D2
out.
C3PO. And I think at scale, this would cost something like, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000. Probably less than a car is my prediction long term.
All right, so there's the price point, 20, 30,000, about the same price as the Robotaxi.
I mean, he does mention that at scale. So I think like probably first versions are gonna be like super expensive, but hey, that's okay.
You're probably right. Same approach he took with the Model S at first, right? Very high-end vehicle, expensive, kind of just getting economies of scale rolling, and then brought it down all the way to the Model 3. I think you could buy the Model Y for like $25,000 right now, the base model with all the rebates. I mean, like if he hadn't done some of this stuff already, I'd be very cautious to believe him, but he has. He's done it. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say like maybe the timelines are off, but I think he's going to deliver on this stuff.
Yeah, I think like if anyone
Uh,
can, it's gonna be him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so here's a few examples of what it'll actually be able to do. You can just have like a household robot watering your plants, doing chores in the background. He even talks about you can have it play with your kids or kind of sit your kids, which I don't know about that, but fine. Here it is cleaning, serving drinks. This is the future here. So yeah, a lot on the We Robot event, but I thought it was just absolutely mind-blowing. So we had to talk about it.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on this?
There was one comment in there that I also was wondering, and I saw that in Twitter as well. Is people asking, were they autonomous last night, or were someone controlling them? Because if that was autonomous, that was too good. Like that was impressively good.
Yeah, I assume it was. You know what? Give me a second. I'm just gonna pull up because they didn't really show the robot kind of interacting with everybody, which I found to be really interesting. Um, but I assume it wasn't teleoperated. I assume so, but I don't obviously know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even if it was a fallback, like for certain things, that's okay. But like, it's insane. I saw people like playing rock and like paper scissors, serving drink. Like, yeah,
Yeah, so here it is. Serving drinks. It also apparently had a voice and was interacting with people. Here's that. It'll switch to the robot in a second. I'll skip ahead a little bit. There it is. So people
yeah,
would
that
wave at
is,
it, up, pointing, gives that. I mean, it's so
cheat.
cool. So like if you wave at it, it would wave at you. If you give it a thumbs up, it would give you a thumbs up. It could play rock, paper, scissors. It would serve you drinks. I mean, Jesus, what is happening?
Yeah,
There's the
the
Robovan.
feature is gonna be weird and cool, man.
Absolutely.
Brace it up.
Um, you know, we spent so much time on this. I think I want to talk about the future and in the context of agents. So let's
Ooh.
talk about some of the new stuff coming from Crew. Let's anybody in the chat, if you have questions for Joe about Crew, about anything um involving agents, use cases, anything at all, drop them. We'll try to answer them. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. And I'll give folks a few minutes. There were a few other news stories that I thought were interesting, but given we spent so much time on the We Robot thing, we'll kind of just jump right into CrewAI topics. And then maybe in the meantime, we can also answer just a few last questions. So Daniil says, looks very teleoperated. What would it look like if it wasn't? I think it would look exactly the same. Um, okay. Okay. Let's go with the easy one, Joe. Why should we use Crew?
Oh damn, that's a good question. Honestly, I think Crew makes it super easy for you to build and orchestrate AI agents. I know that because that's how I created it. So I was building agents without Crew, and I love them because some of them start to work so well. And this was like a year ago, a little over a year ago, and I wanted to build more. But it turns out that building more agents was kind of tough. A lot of like boilerplate coding, and then like new things are starting to pop up every day. So I try to group everything that was working into one thing, and that's how Crew came to be. So I would say Crew makes it easier, and that's why you should use it. I should use it.
Yeah, and actually, since you brought up the beginning of Crew, I have to just maybe talk about how we met. We have a mutual friend. I worked with her at my previous startup. You worked with her at the company she left my company for after. She connected us. And you like, we connected briefly one day, and you're like, hey, I'm building this thing, and it's going to be cool, and it's all about agents. And I said, hey, agents are amazing, I'm into it. But I have to be honest, so many people say they're going to build stuff, Joe. So many people say that, and not many actually deliver and ship. And I said, hey, that's great. Like, I love the enthusiasm. Cool. Let me know how it goes. And in the back of my mind, I thought, all right, cool. Maybe he'll build something, maybe he won't, but sounds good. And then, like, it was like 6 weeks later, you emailed me again, and you were like, I have something I'd like to show you. And you had built a a ton already, a ton of functionality, and you showed it to me, and I was so blown away by the amount that you had built in such a short period of time, which has translated and continued to this day. I remember in that meeting, I said, can I be your first check? And I wanted to invest. And I was just so blown away by your enthusiasm and just the rate at which you were able to build things. So I just wanted to share that brief history.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta say it was good, and I'm so glad that we connected. I think like since then, yeah, we grown to be good friends, and I really appreciate
Absolutely.
that. That has been a lot of fun. Um, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Yes, I
Joe,
definitely
go ahead.
can.
Give the intro.
All right, so my name is hard to pronounce for any no Portuguese speaker. And because I have been doing a lot of calls and some of times they're really short, 15-minute ones, I try to skip the whole like, oh, how do I say your name? Kind of like a dance. And I just go, call me Joe. And turns out that saved like a solid like 3 minutes sometimes even five. That's what I go by. I have been in tech for over 20 years. I have been engineer manager, director, CTO, different roles throughout the years, and basically have been working for companies in New York and SF for the past 10. And before doing Crew, I was running Clearbit on the engineering side, especially as the AI initiatives in their platform for enterprise. And I did that for 5 years to the point that we got acquired by HubSpot. And after that, I left HubSpot to start CrewAI.
Awesome. Um, let's go to, okay, just in case, maybe briefly, like, give like the one sentence pitch on what is Crew AI, because Brian is asking, just so folks who just joined will know as we go into the longer conversation.
Sure. So CrewAI is a company and also a framework that goes by the same name. So if you want to use the framework, it's open source. You basically can download is a Python package. It makes it super easy for you to build and orchestrate AI agents. Has a bunch of features in it. You can do delegation. You can build agents in different ways. You have testing. You can train your agents, use different LLMs. There's a lot going on in there. You can use custom tools and everything in between. So I would say that is a summary of like the framework. And the company itself, we build an enterprise version of that we sell to companies. We have 150 companies that are using under a closed beta now. A huge waiting list that we need to get to, but we are working with a lot of big companies out there, like trying to help them like make sure that they fix automation problems that require agency.
Yeah, and like, if I were to put a fine point on what sets Crew apart in my mind, I would say it is the most flexible framework for building agentic crews, agents together, working together. And it also is production ready, where I think a lot of others are kind of just research projects or slightly more than research projects. You built this to be production ready. And by the way, I'll even simplify it for a second. Why agents? Why use agents? Well, the large language models themselves are the intelligence, but intelligence alone can't do anything. And so if you wrap them with memory and tools, and then the ability for multiple large language models to work together, you get incredible results, and you can automate so much of your work or even your personal life. And that's why agents are so important, and why, I say a million times, you've heard it before, bullish on agents. Um, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I know, yeah, I would just agree with you. Yeah, I think like honestly, LLMs are good, but and they're very easy to use, and they make like a lot of our jobs way easier. But when you think in the context of an enterprise or a company that wants to deploy this, there's like a last mile that is missing there. And that goes through other features like what you mentioned that are complex, like memory and all that, and then training and evaluations and tracking and compliance. And then that also goes into company specific needs. You need to have permissions, repositories, access level controls, ability to run this on different clouds. So that there's a lot that misses there for these companies to get true like 100% value out of this for automations. So yeah, there's a lot of different gaps in there.
And Douglas Clemens, the question you seem to always get, and we've talked about it previously, but go ahead, answer it again. Will there be a CrewAI UI soon?
Yes, I gotta say, I built that and throw it away like 3 different times, but it's done. We're actually trying it out internally already. It works like a charm. It's different from anything else out there. Like there's nothing like this. I haven't seen anything like this anywhere. It's not what you expect. I promise you. If you're expecting a node-based system, it's not that. It's more than that. There is some of that, but it's more than that. And it's scheduled to go live later this month. So yes, it's gonna go out, and we're gonna go get a lot of people play with it.
Awesome. Next, what is the best use of agents workflows? So let's just say, like, what are some of the top use cases that you're seeing?
Yeah. So honestly, there's a few verticals that I'm seeing a lot of use case, but more than that, what I'm seeing a lot is a pattern on those use cases. So in terms of verticals, a lot of internal automations, a lot of marketing, a lot of sales, a lot of research, a lot of coding that is impressing me. I didn't thought people would go for complex use cases like coding, but we have like one of a Fortune 500 company, like one of the biggest consultants out there that is using agents to update legacy SAP projects. And they're using CrewAI for that. It's insane. So agents are basically refactoring classes, rewriting, running them, testing them, and shipping them. And it's insane what they're doing. We're gonna probably do a blog post about it at some point later this month. In terms of like the pattern on those use cases, most common is a combination of 4 things. So research, where you gather data, inference of like analysis, so infer, try to get conclusions out of that, sometimes a summarization step, and then a reporting step that is might be like converting this into JSON, markdown, whatever it might be. So those 4 things are the most common that we see out there, the combination of them.
Awesome. All right. Next, Lalo Morales, how can I get a job at Crew? So if you're an engineer, if you really, I know you're hiring for a number of different roles. If they're interested in applying for a role at Crew, how do they do that?
I would say the easiest way is probably reach out to me directly, especially if it's engineering. If it's like a role like sales or sales engineer or support, there might, I mean, reach out to me anyway and I'll figure it out. But probably, yeah, if you send me a message or an X or on LinkedIn, it might be better. Email is tough. It's too crowded. But DMs usually work pretty well if you can. And we have hired people that way. I had someone send me a demo on a Friday, and Monday they're starting at the company.
Awesome. Okay, so be persistent. Find him on X. DM him. Let me find another one.
By the way, I think this might be the last one. Unfortunately, I gotta go. I have a customer call.
Yep. Okay, understood. Last question. So, actually, I'm going to rephrase this question a little bit. Have you tried the new O1 model with Cruise, and what have you seen?
Ooh. All right, you throw me a big one. I'm gonna do better than just answer that. Can I share my screen, by the way?
You should be able to, yeah.
All right. So this is sneak peek on a few things. Let me present, share screen. All right. So I know there's gonna be questions about this after I show this, but hey, bear with me. So let's look at this crew for a second that is running live, and let's look at the testing because I compared a few different models. All right, so I'm not gonna give it away. Let's look GPT-4o. You see a low crew average quality score, 11 seconds, 3 million tokens, pretty good. 4o mini, a higher score for quality, 8.4, 18 seconds, 4 million tokens. You might ask, well, why a smaller model is taking longer? Because remember, the smaller models sometimes can go into blind alleys, so they kind of have to go back and fix themselves. But you can see a higher quality from more iterations on this one. Now, let's look at O1 Mini. Same score as 401 Mini, but taking 21 seconds and 6 million tokens. And if you go to O1 Preview, blow everyone out of the water, 9.4, but 74 seconds and 10 million tokens. So honestly, given the discrepancy, we're probably better off like with GPT-4o Mini. Yeah. So by the way, yeah, and I can run like a comparison with Grok. Maybe in our next one, I run a comparison with like open source models as well.
All right, Joe, I know you got to go. Thank you so much for joining me. This is always a pleasure chatting with you. Check out CrewAI.com. If you're looking for a role at Crew, apply. Find Joe on Twitter. I'll drop that in the description below. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your time, man.
Thank you. Have a good one, folks. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. And I'm going to end the stream there as well. Thank you, everybody who joined. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. And we'll see you in the next one.